Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer number 5002-450-630. This is a hinge, is what it is. It's fairly uncommon to sell this type of hinge as a plain bearing hinge, but nonetheless, here it is. This is a 5002-450-630 from Bommer, and we're going to dissect that part number. In short order, it's a full mortise typical hinge. The only thing that makes it a bit atypical is that it's just, again, plain bearing. If I was going to do a hinge, whenever I would do a hinge, regardless of the construction, and some constructions are going to be available only as a ball bearing or better sort of variant, meaning you can't get plain bearing, I would always order a ball bearing hinge. Even in an application that is extremely low volume, in the long run, in 20 years, you will absolutely see the benefit of a door that's ball bearing versus one that's not. The top hinge, in fact, carries 70% of the weight of the entire door. And if you had a residential application that that door may be opened 6 times a day at the most, maybe once or maybe twice in 2 months, I assure you that after enough time, meaning cycles, you're going to see a wear pattern between the knuckles. So whatever leaf is holding the door, you're going to see a void at the joint above there carrying that load. You might say, well, to be honest, I don't care about 20 years from now. True, understood. The fact of the matter is ball bearing hinges are likely very little additional money when it comes to the increased cost. So now, this is a typical full mortise hinge, and let's dissect the part number. In no particular order, this is a 5-knuckle hinge that is full mortise. You can see from the swag on the hinge leaf here and here that when the leaves are brought parallel to each other, they're meant to be mortised flush to the edge of the door and frame. It also means that it is a standard weight hinge. This hinge leaf ought to be 134 thousandths thick. Let's test that. .135. So that's right on. It also means that this is a stainless steel base hinge. That hinge is actually made of stainless steel. That's the 2 in the part number. So the 500, 5-knuckle, full mortise, standard weight. The 2 means stainless base material. The -450, that means that this hinge is 4.5 by 4.5. The vertical dimension is the first dimension. It's 4.5 by 4.5. The width is the second dimension. Okay. Now, do you have to know which dimension is first on a hinge? Yes, just like you do on a door. Can you get by with a little bit of ignorance, I suppose, and not knowing which is the first dimension when your hinges are always square? Sure, you can. However, 4.5 by 4 is a very common hinge. 4.5 by 6 is a very common hinge, and so on. 4 by 3.5, 5 by 8. It's helpful to know the height is the first dimension. Okay. Now this typical hinge, forgive me, and then the rest of the part number 630, that means 2 things. It's made of stainless steel. The back has not been brushed. Made of solid stainless, number 1. Number 2, it has a brushed finish on it. So this is what a solid stainless steel hinge looks like. And in fact, the most durable of all finishes is where the base material is, or to the base material, nothing has been done to it other than a brush or a satin type of finish. The other option of a hinge like this might be a steel-based hinge with a satin chrome or a satin nickel type plating process, but that finish would be nowhere near as durable as this. As you wear that hinge away in terms of its finish, it will be less brushed. I don't think it'll ever look like this mill on the back of the hinge. Okay. Now, you're not going to really make any contact with the hinge. You're not going to touch this to wear that finish down. But if it was a push plate, if it was an exit device or a lock set trim, yeah, then having solid base material with just a brush finish does give you the idea that it is going to be a very durable type, ultimately a very durable finish. Let's switch to the screen view and take a look at some supporting documentation. Okay, so this is the item that we're looking at here. And just really important to be able to go over the general features of the hinge, which we've already discussed. So rather than duplicate that, let's go to the manufacturer's page as seen here. But first, let's look at the cut sheet, which I think is really a technical drawing, or a template, really. This will serve as a template for the 5002. So the columns are steel and then non-ferrous, brass or bronze, or non-ferrous stainless. You can see how that part number changes as the base material changes. So if this same hinge was a steel base, obviously it would be a 5000. You put BB in front of it, and that will make it that ball bearing hinge. And if you put LB in front of it, that will make it a 3-knuckle concealed bearing type hinge. Very nice option to be LB or concealed bearing. Now, what's not listed here is you can, in many of these hinges, do an LB 5000. If you wanted a concealed bearing 5-knuckle hinge, you can do that. It's just not listed here. If you happen to want to know the dimension of the leaf from the edge to the swag line, that's the A dimension, well, here it is, 1 7/8. Okay, 4.5 by 4, all the way up to 4.5 by 8, which is the widest of the wide throw hinge that you'll get without going to absolute extreme measures of either having a company custom fabricate those, that would be obscenely expensive, or manufacturing your own, which would probably ultimately be obscenely expensive. So different part numbers based on the base material. Now that link back to the manufacturer's page here, click on that and it will open up the manufacturer's page within our site. Now what's handy about that is there is a how to order matrix that I've placed here, and that's going to show you how we dissect that part number. Okay, so no designation equals plain bearing. 5 is 5-knuckle, 0 is 4 mortise, 0 is standard versus wide throw or swing clear, etc. And then 2 in that last column is a non-ferrous standard weight stainless steel. Then comes our size. We have 450. The Bommer convention for naming their sizes does, in my opinion, take a little getting used to. It may not make perfect sense when you're trying to size a hinge, and I can't think of an example that might be difficult. Okay, well, here's an example. If I had a 5 by 4, well, never mind. They have it listed there. Anyway, so your examples are here. If you're not sure of how to call your hinge out, find out before you order the hinge. You don't want to order the wrong item. So a 400 is 4 by 4. A 450 is 4.5, 4.5. But the hybrid 4.5 by 4 is 454. Okay. There are no options here. They don't apply to this hinge at all. Square or beveled door would have everything to do with a swing clear hinge. They have to know how to bend that hinge to accommodate. Tip and pin options, if we wanted a hospital tip or a decorative tip, we would insert it here. Security options such as N for non-removable would be very typical. For exterior doors that swing out, you would want a non-removable pin. S for security stud, or A for a combination of the N and S would be nice. You can do that. And we'll look at those quickly in the product catalog. Any sort of options as it pertains to an anchor or a slip-in hinge would be defined here. I don't recall the last time I've done an anchor hinge, but slip-in hinges are not thoroughly unheard of. Electric options would come here. Okay, if you needed wires to pass through the hinge for the transfer of low voltage, and then your finish code. Bommer is exceptionally proud of not only their capability of finishing hinges, but their nearly 3 dozen finishes they can do, and they're outrageously and rightfully so proud of their plating plant, which is, I believe, in the town of Gaffney, and I think that's just over the border in South Carolina. I forget. I've been to the plating plant. I've been to the primary plant as well, and I can tell you that the process of plating and finishing hinges is an awful process. It's dealing with lots of chemicals. But a trip to the Bommer plating plant was very eye-opening, very valuable to me to learn insight as to how hinges are manufactured and finished. And Bommer's pride from their product line not only being thoroughly manufactured in the United States, but their pride in their plating plant comes from this very fact. The wastewater that they eject from the plating plant is literally cleaner than the municipal local water supply. And the municipal local water supply is proper, healthy water. So they are very proud of how they plate hinges. So if you have need for a custom finish, Bommer may be able to do it. They can't do all finishes. I think that they're lagging when it comes to the powder coat finishes, and I don't believe they have any intention to get into it. They're probably just going to wait that out. So you wanted white powder coat, I don't think they're going to really entertain that. If you needed 1,000 of them, they could probably look into it. But black powder coat is fairly common nowadays. However, Bommer's always had a black finish. That's the 601. It's bright black japanned, they call it. Now let's go over to the product catalog. And I just want to introduce you to this encyclopedic document. You will get to that how to order page pretty quick in the book. The first few pages are an introduction to Bommer. Literally 1876, the two brothers Bommer started the business, invented the spring hinge, and it is the husband of the granddaughter of one of the two Bommer brothers that literally owns the company today, to this day in 2020. The husband of the granddaughter of one of the two brothers. So it's definitely a family business. Finish chart, we just talked about finishes, that's all here. Determining hinge weight. So general information, encyclopedic information, that's going to be in the front of every good hinge manufacturer's catalog. If you are in the industry, if you are someone who needs to deal with hinges, I would consider it to be impossible to really be successful when dealing with hinges if you don't or haven't read an introductory document like this, or from any other manufacturer who has it, so that you learn the terminology. What you see here is a formula by which to determine how wide a hinge should be. And this hinge is 4.5, 4.5. Now, I don't know if that's the right size hinge, but I'm going to guess that it's not, because 4-inch wide is generally a better fit for many installations. To determine hinge width, it's as follows. Well, they don't really give you a formula, but here's the formula. It's door thickness minus back set. They're saying doors up to 2.25 inch thick have a 1/4 inch back set. So 1 3/4, let's say, minus 1/4 inch is 1.5 inches times 2 is 3 inch. You then add your inset, you add your clearance, and that will give you the width of the hinge. So in many instances, a 4-inch hinge is really a better option because you really want that vertical axis of pivoting to be tucked as close to the underside of the door, to the center of the door as possible. Don't let it hang out here if it's not necessary. Okay? Determining hinge width, they have a chart here where they've already done the work, but it's helpful to know the math behind it. Well, forgive me, they have it right here. Right here. I didn't realize it was on the next page. I apologize. Hinge swag, how the hinge leaf is bent. A full surface hinge won't have any swag on the hinge leaves, but full mortise will definitely be bent, so it will look like this. How you know is take that hinge and lay it on a table. If it lays thoroughly flat, it's a full surface hinge without any hinge swag, without any swag on the hinge leaves. A handing chart. Product comparison, if you wanted to convert from Hager, Stanley, or McKinney, or an ANSI number, you can get to the Bommer number over here. Very handy. I don't use it because I generally have all these. Well, McKinney, I don't have them all memorized. But Hager and Stanley I'm pretty good with, along with Bommer. And it's only because I just encounter McKinney less than those other manufacturers. There's no reason not to learn it. It's just that I don't encounter it as much. Now they'll talk about 5-knuckle and 3-knuckle hinges. But let's get right down to our 5000 series, and here it is. It's a full, bear with me, we're still talking about different hinges. And actually, before we continue and roll over that area, those security pin options are indeed defined on page AH4 of the non-removable pin security stud combination of 2 and maximum security stud. They're just safety features. If you want to prevent someone from driving the pin out of the hinge, or I should say all but prevent, it would be the N in the part number for non-removable pin. The safety stud is neat. That's about a nickel-sized disc that's attached to a leaf that protrudes through a hole in the opposite leaf when the hinge is closed. While you can drive the pin out, you still can't separate those leaves. If you want belts and suspenders, well, here it is, non-removable pin and security stud. Maximum security stud gives you those holes that go into the hinge reinforcing plates themselves. Okay. That how to order sheet is here. Now back to the one page that I wanted to talk about, the 5000. That's what we're looking at. 5002 stainless steel. Sizes that it's available in are here, and this is literally just the cut sheet of that hinge. Okay. Shows you the gauge of the hinge and how it changes as the size changes. Okay. Very handy catalog, and of course it's the 3029 hinge that I think that Bommer is most famous for, the standard double-acting spring hinge that you see everywhere, where you have double-acting doors hung on hinges, hung on spring hinges. They kind of look like that, except that this is a half-surface version. Okay. Let's wrap up this video on camera. Just a couple of points in conclusion here. So this is a removable pin hinge. You can easily drive that out. If for some reason you wanted to separate the leaves, I do. I put the door and frame leaf respectively, and then I bring the door to that and drive my pins down is how I would hang the door. Okay. Screws are included in compatible base material, stainless steel. Not compatible, it is stainless steel. Be mindful, this has half wood screws and all machine screws. It is likely written in the Bommer catalog that that's standard. I would absolutely encourage you to dictate at the time of order in the comment field what screws you want. You want all wood screws, all machine screws, half wood, half machine. Indicate that so that you don't get your hinges and then you realize, well, I'm doing wood doors and wood frames. I don't have enough stainless steel hinge screws for my wood door. Now, Bommer might say, I mean, their logic is sound. Stainless hinges, wood doors and frames. You're probably going to be dealing with steel or metal by metal. But indicate, you don't want to be Saturday morning and you don't have the right screws, and there's nothing I can do on a Saturday to get you those correct screws. So indicate that at all times. Now, Bommer pretty much always includes cardboard shims. Those are just perforated pieces of cardboard. If you need to tip that door, if you need to cant the door out or bring it back against the stop face a little bit, those are included. Be mindful, you would not install these on a fire-rated door because they're not permissible for use on a fire door because they're plain bearing. Hinges can be stainless base material, but they have to be ball bearing. The last thing I'd like to point out to you, right above the Bommer logo, Made in USA. That's a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. I've been to their plant, both of them. I have a very deep appreciation for how truly complicated and a pain in the south side it is to make hinges. I've seen steel doors made, I've seen hinges made, I've seen wood doors made. Hinges are the most awful thing to have to make because they're a lot of labor, is the bottom line. They're dirty, the metal, you're handling heavy material. It's a very particular sort of science when you're doing the finishing. And it's awful, and I have a deep appreciation for the work that Bommer does. The fact that it's thoroughly, utterly made in the United States, I think is a absolute reason to completely use their product line every single time that you have the chance. While not everything they stock is, not everything they sell is stock, and in fact, of course, percentage-wise, the majority isn't. But they're an absolute full, capable manufacturer. That generally has a lead time because they make things to order. Plan ahead. Get your very high quality made in America hinges right from Bommer. Any questions on the Bommer 5002 in a 450 size and a 630 finish, or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.